The incident dates back to the 1990s, and the incident happened to Oliver. He was a very agile man, was chatty, and had a few friends. Some of them were new lawyers and businessmen, and they used to hang out together, and they had a time to hang out. That was in the evening when they all sit together. One day, a friend of theirs appeared in that chat with a new man. The new man he brought is an astrologer and a very good astrologer. He has many certificates and much experiences. And he introduced them all to that man. 4 or 5 of them got to know each other, and they gossiped for a while. And while gossiping, at some point, the story about ghosts appeared. So when such stories are rumored, they find it very interesting because it appears that their stories revolved around rumors, business, trade, card games, and such. They used to discuss about the political situation. From there, suddenly, when the discussion about this paranormal goes, there is a feeling of attraction between them. Everyone is talking and chatting, and the newbie says you may not know much about that world. Because not all of them were believers, there were some of them who believed in these things. He says that many of you don't believe it, but this thing exists. I can prove it if you want. Oliver wasn't a very trusting man himself. He said, "How will you prove me?" He says, "I can prove you. I can planchette you here if you want." Oliver says, "I don't believe in planchette. Anyway, we can sit if you want." The astrologer asked when. Oliver says, "Okay, any day. Do it today if you can." So the astrologer said, "Okay, I will do it today, but it cannot be planned with so many people. All this work is not done with so many people. Maybe we can have 3 people for it." So Oliver said, "Okay, then you do one thing. You stay at my house and eat and drink. At night, we'll sit when the others leave." Oliver, his friend, and the astrologer decide that the 3 of them will sit. The others were quite disappointed and asked, "Will you not keep us?" Saying such things, they go away. So what Oliver does is sit down in the living room of his house after they leave, eat, and make small talk. Oliver said, "Brother, let's start." So what happened was Oliver wasn't married at the time, so he wasn't in much of a hurry. He said that it is okay. "I have almost everything ready at home, so let's start. When will you start?" Astrologer says, "Not now. Let it be a late night." So Oliver thinks, is it a trick? Or something like putting him in some kind of puzzle or creating some kind of a puzzle or illusion. On time means around 2 o'clock in the night they sit. They were sitting on the balcony while talking about something, and it was raining all around. After that, they came back to the living room and closed all the doors and windows. The astrologer said, "What you will do is bring the candle that I asked you to bring." So he brought the candles from inside the house and a few other things that were mentioned. They put them on a table. After placing them, the astrologer said, "What you do now is you close your eyes and don't look anymore. You will lose your concentration and you may create an illusion. That illusion should not be created." Another thing, Oliver's friend here was a Muslim and was told that none of you should do this. When I perform this ritual here, no one is allowed to say anything, and you do not remember the God or do anything here, because it has nothing to do with the work. It is a different thing. Doing so will backfire. Well, they said we won't, so they started the ritual as usual. Candles are burning inside the room, a very ghostly atmosphere. They can only hear the sound of rain outside. The rain is increasing, and the astrologer who is there closes his eyes, and he is meditating. The candle light is steady, and the room is quite cold. There is no fan. The candle light is steady as the fan is turned off. Oliver closes his eyes, and at such a time, he went into such a state he felt sleepy. Suddenly he felt that the light of the candles decreased, meaning that the flame of the candle light became smaller, became very small, and it came to such a point that he suddenly thought, why should it be like this? Because there is no reason to dim the candlelight. The sleep that was coming to him disappeared from his eyes. He has become conscious. All of a sudden he got a kind of feeling, and he had a goosebump. Suddenly he felt like there was a presence in the room, and something was standing right behind him, and he suddenly felt like something was going to touch him. He looked over at his friend, seeing that his friend was sitting silently and blankly with no thought in his eyes. At such a time, the light is completely reduced. Suddenly his eyes go to a picture hanging on the wall. As his eyes went, his chest felt heavy. because it seems to him that the image has come alive and is looking at them, and he shivers. He gets scared, and whenever this happens, he suddenly finds that the candle is almost extinguished. So suddenly he hears that his friend is speaking in other languages, and the tone of his voice has changed a lot. But the light of the candle was extinguished, and the room was pitch dark. And the rain is increasing. He does not understand his friend's language. What language is he speaking? And at that time, suddenly he felt something running around in the room, and it was very windy for no reason, because the doors and windows are all closed. So he heard that astrologer saying, "Whoever is in this room, come before me and speak in the voice of any one of us." Thus he gave a call, and once, a second time, a third time, and his voice was getting thicker. His voice somehow changed, meaning an indescribable voice came into him, and he started speaking in Urdu in a very indistinct tone. And he said, "Why am I called?" Oliver can't stand it anymore when he hears it. He shuddered with fear, and a chill ran through his body. He recited prayer without his knowledge, and he hit the astrologer. The astrologer tripped, and immediately more sound rose in the room. Darkness in the room, no light, nothing, silence. Oliver shivered. He doesn't know what to do. It seems to him that something is running outside the house and whispering something. Oliver cries out in fear and calls out to his friend, and at one point stands up and bravely turns on the light in the room. He sees that his friend is lying down and foaming at the mouth, and he has no consciousness. His eyes are closed and his face is pale. What they do is that he gets up and brings water from the room and splashes the water on his friend's face. They try to revive him, and it turns out that his friend is unconscious, sleeping, so Oliver sits next to him because he has nothing to do. And after almost the whole night, the light of dawn appears. And just then he winked and said, "What happened to me?" Oliver asked the astrologer without answering his friend's words, "Are you okay?" He said, "No, I am not right. You did the things that you agreed not to do here. What we were doing was not really a good thing. What we are doing is exorcism, and you pray at the same time. You have angered someone. This bad spirit that came here, you angered him." Oliver gets scared and asked, "How can I fix it?" I really didn't believe in them. I was very scared and recited the prayer. That astrologer says you may be in danger. You should be careful. So anyways, saying that he left their house. Saying goodbye to his friend, Oliver tries to sleep. However, that night Oliver stopped hanging out with his friends. He told his friends in advance that his body is not good, so he will not hang out today. He comes home and calls his girlfriend after having dinner, but does not get her on the phone. So it was around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. So he thought he would go to sleep. It is getting late at night, so he went to bed after 11 p.m. The room he had was next to the drawing room. They exorcist there. When going to sleep, sleep is almost approaching, and at such a time, he suddenly hears someone knocking on the door of his room. So he asked who, but there is no answer. Knocking loudly again. A little later, Oliver heard a woman's voice speaking from the other side, and he recognized the voice. It was his lover's voice, and he was shocked. At first, he was shocked and wondered where she would come from, except for his family, inside his house, and most importantly, there is no reason to enter his drawing room and knock on his door. So he thought of them very quickly. He heard the woman laughing again from the other side, a very scary laugh, a woman's voice, and very scary. Then the doors started slamming harder. The door was wooden, and with this loud knock, the door hook broke and opened. And he felt something dark entered the room. As he slept with the lights off, the darkness grew deeper and deeper, engulfing the entire room. And gradually the darkness grew and grew. It's so dark that he can't see anything. One time, and he was feeling that someone was walking in the room, and together he noticed that a bad smell in the room that permeated the whole room. A very bad smell in the room. He could not bear it anymore. He shouted and called his father's name. A little later, he heard the door of the next room open. Opening the door, his father came, and Oliver immediately felt that the room had become normal. The dark feeling of the room was gone. His father said, "What happened to you? "Why are you shouting like that?" But he cannot tell her what he saw. He says, "I had a nightmare." The father was very surprised that such a big boy was afraid of such a nightmare. And then the father recites something and blows him. His father tells him, "Don't worry," and go to sleep. Saying this, the father leaves. Anyway, for that night, Oliver turns on the light and spends a night. The next morning, his father took him to a religious priest. The priest hears everything from Oliver's mouth and says, "The ghost got angry at you because you prayed while doing the planchette. That's why he's scaring you now." He then performs a ritual on Oliver and says, "No more problems. That spirit will not disturb you again." Nothing ever happened to Oliver after that. So, this was the story. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Check out our other videos for more content. And remember to share this with your friends. See you next time.